Hey everyone, what's going on? So picture this. You're about to spend your very last day on Earth and know exactly when it will end. What would you eat? What would you say? Well, today we're diving into the absolutely chilling final 24 hours of one of America's most notorious serial killers, John Joubert. This guy's story is so twisted that even seasoned FBI profilers were shocked by what they discovered. We're talking about his last meal, his final words that left everyone speechless, and the disturbing artwork he created on death row that prison officials called deeply disturbing. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this case still haunts investigators today. So let's get into it. The man behind the monster. Let me start by telling you who John Joubert was, because this is where things get really unsettling. This guy looked completely normal. I'm talking Boy Scout, school band member, track team runner. He graduated from a Catholic high school with good grades and seemed like the all-American kid next door. But here's the thing that'll blow your mind. While he was playing clarinet in the school band, he was also stabbing children with pencils and razor blades. At just 13 years old, Joubert stabbed a 9-year-old girl named Sarah Canty in the back with a pencil. And get this, he later admitted in psychiatric reports that he felt lewdness stimulated when she cried out in pain. The very next day, this kid armed himself with a razor blade and slashed another young girl as he rode past her on his bicycle. The scariest part? He was never caught for these early attacks, making him bolder. By age 17, Joubert had escalated to near-fatal attacks. He stabbed a 27-year-old university student in the stomach, critically injuring her. 2 months later, he cut a 9-year-old boy's throat. Miraculously, the child survived. But this pattern reveals something absolutely terrifying about how serial killers develop. The killing spree that shocked America. Now here's where Joubert's story takes a truly dark turn. After joining the U.S. Air Force and getting stationed in Nebraska, he committed the 3 murders that would ultimately lead him to the electric chair. And the details of these crimes are absolutely horrifying. His first confirmed kill was 11-year-old Richard "Ricky" Stetson in Maine. Joubert stabbed the boy in the chest, but here's the crucial mistake that would later seal his fate. He bit the victim on the calf. That bite mark became the forensic evidence that connected him to this murder years later. Then came the Nebraska murders that terrorized entire communities. On September 18, 1983, he targeted 13-year-old Danny Joe Eberly, a paperboy delivering newspapers in the quiet suburb of Bellevue. Joubert had prepared what investigators call a kill kit: rope, tape, and a knife. He ambushed the boy, forced him into his car, and drove him to a secluded cornfield. What happened next is absolutely heartbreaking. As Eberly lay bleeding from stab wounds, the boy desperately pleaded, Please don't kill me." He even offered to stay quiet if Joubert would take him to a hospital. But Joubert coldly responded that he didn't believe him and continued the attack. The autopsy revealed 11 stab wounds, 9 of which were inflicted while Danny was still alive. Less than 3 months later, Joubert struck again. This time, his victim was 12-year-old Christopher Walden, who was simply walking to school. Joubert forced the boy into his car and drove to a wooded area. When Christopher refused to lie down in the snow, a struggle ensued. Joubert overpowered the child and cut his throat with such ferocity that he nearly decapitated him. Guys, if this case is as shocking to you as it was when I first researched it, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want to see more deep dives into true crime cases like this, subscribe and ring that notification bell. Trust me, what comes next in Joubert's story will blow your mind. The investigation and capture. Now, you might be wondering how they finally caught this monster. Well, it came down to one incredibly observant teacher who saved countless lives. On January 11th, 1984, Joubert was hunting again. He drove to the Aldersgate preschool and began circling the building, peering inside like a predator, sizing up his next victim. A teacher preparing for the day noticed this creepy behavior. When Joubert drove off and returned to continue watching, she had the brilliant mind to memorize his license plate number and report it to the police. That single decision unraveled his entire killing spree. When police traced the plate to Joubert, an airman at nearby Offutt Air Force Base, they initially just questioned him about the preschool incident. But here's where it gets interesting. Under questioning, Joubert began making what investigators called spontaneous admissions about the Eberly and Walden murders. Soon after, he provided a full, detailed confession. However, the FBI's involvement made this case legendary in criminal profiling. The famous profiler Robert K. Ressler created a behavioral profile of the Nebraska killer that matched Joubert in every single detail. During a training class at the FBI Academy, when Ressler presented the case details, a police officer from Maine recognized similarities to the unsolved Stetson murder. That's when they made the connection using the bite mark evidence. Forensic science at its finest. Life on death row. The disturbing truth. If you can believe it, Joubert's story gets even more twisted. While his lawyers fought his death sentence for over a decade, Joubert was busy revealing his true, unchanged nature to a reporter named Mark Pettit. In a series of 7 exclusive interviews, Joubert made an admission that still gives me chills. He told Pettit, "To be honest, I am still having fantasies about killing more children." Think about that for a second. After more than 10 years in prison, after being convicted of multiple murders, this guy was still fantasizing about killing kids. It proves that some people simply cannot be rehabilitated. But it gets worse. Joubert revealed that he had been channeling these fantasies into artwork. He created at least 2 drawings showing a male figure committing crimes on 2 younger male victims. Prison officials seized these drawings and confirmed they depicted children being murdered. These weren't just doodles, they were detailed fantasies of future crimes he hoped to commit if he ever got out. The reporter Pettit actually sued the prison system to get access to these drawings, arguing they could help law enforcement understand serial killer psychology. I mean, imagine having to say in court that you really, really need to see a murderer's disturbing artwork for science. The legal battle and final appeals. Despite confessing his crimes, Joubert's journey through the legal system lasted 12 years. His lawyers challenged everything they could, focusing mainly on the exceptional depravity standard used to justify his death sentence. They argued this term was too vague and subjective. Initially, they had some success when a U.S. district court agreed that the standard was ambiguous. But the Court of Appeals overturned this, stating unequivocally that Joubert's sadistic torture of his victims clearly met any reasonable definition of exceptional depravity. I mean, when you're torturing and murdering children, there's not much room for interpretation there. As his execution date approached, Joubert's attorneys filed desperate last-minute appeals. They challenged the fairness of his clemency hearing, pointing out that Nebraska's Attorney General, who was on the clemency board, had publicly stated that there is no killer on death row for whom the death sentence is more appropriate. They also challenged Nebraska's use of the electric chair as cruel and unusual punishment. Both appeals were denied by the Supreme Court without comment, clearing the final obstacle to his execution. The final day, July 16th to 17th, 1996. Now we come to the part you've all been waiting for, Joubert's final 24 hours. On the evening of July 16th, 1996, a strange calm settled over the Nebraska State Penitentiary. Inside, 33-year-old John Joubert was living out his final moments. Joubert chose pizza with green peppers and onions, strawberry cheesecake, and black coffee for his last meal. It's weird how such a normal meal request can seem surreal when you know what this person did, right? Most of us have eaten that exact combination on a random Tuesday night. Before being led to the execution chamber, Joubert was permitted to make a final statement. His words were directed at the families of his victims and the people of Nebraska. "I just want to say that again. I'm sorry for what I have done. I do not know if my death will change anything or if it will bring anyone peace. And I just ask the families of Danny Eberly, Christopher Walden, and Richard Stetson to please try to find some peace and ask the people of Nebraska to forgive me. That's all." At 12:29 a.m. Central Daylight Time on July 17, 1996, John Joubert was executed by electrocution. He was the 332nd person executed in the United States since the reinstatement of capital punishment in 1976. The aftermath and unanswered questions. But here's what haunts me about this case. Were Joubert's final words genuine remorse or just one last manipulation? Remember, this is the same man who was still fantasizing about killing children and drawing pictures of murder right up until his execution. The evidence strongly suggests His apology was just another performance by someone who had mastered mimicking human emotion without actually feeling it. The execution itself became controversial when details emerged during a later legal challenge. Court records revealed that during the electrocution, Joubert developed a 4-inch blister on the top of his head and blistering on both sides of his head above his ears. This graphic evidence fueled ongoing debates about whether electrocution constituted cruel and unusual punishment. So there you have it. The absolutely chilling final 24 hours of John Joubert, from his seemingly normal childhood that hid a sadistic monster, to his decade-long killing spree, to those final moments in the electric chair. His case forced us to confront some really uncomfortable questions about the nature of evil and whether some people can truly change. What do you think about Joubert's final apology? Do you believe it was genuine remorse, or just one last manipulation by a master manipulator? And here's another question that keeps me up at night. If that teacher hadn't written down his license plate, how many more children might Joubert have killed? If this deep dive into one of America's most disturbing criminal cases fascinated you as much as it did me, please smash that like button and subscribe for more true crime content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss when I upload new cases. Speaking of which, next week I'm covering another absolutely shocking death row case involving an even more bizarre last meal request and final words that left everyone in the execution chamber speechless. You don't want to miss that one, so ensure you're subscribed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.